Hey everyone, my name is Casey and welcome to my channel. I am a homeschooling student. I have been homeschooled for the past 6 years of my life, aka all throughout high school, currently in my last year of homeschooling. And over the past few months, I've been attending this online leadership training class conducted by my school, where we talked about what it's like and how to be an effective student leader. Phenomenal class, phenomenal topics, even better speaker, Dr. Great Babuti, one of the greatest speakers I've listened to all my life. And Dr. Great, if you're watching this, thank you so much for teaching us in this class. Really appreciate the time and effort you put on with your students. And thank you so much for helping us understand what it's like to be an effective student leader. So right now I will be sharing with you some of the things that I've learned throughout this class and throughout my experience as a leader. Just a short background, I've had experience with leadership. I am currently the president of the high school community of our school called High Unite Middle East. So that covers homeschooled high schoolers all over the Middle East, namely Qatar, KSA, and the UAE. Technically, I oversee them, and I was also the class president during 6th grade. And I've experienced leading group projects, leading group games. So I do have an idea of what leadership is like, but I didn't know what exactly it was back then. And thankfully, this class gave me clarity on what leadership is really all about. Let's get on with it. Just a disclaimer though, this is an 11th session class, so I won't have time to talk about everything that we've tackled, nor do I have the mental capacity to remember everything off the top of my head. Not that I'm saying everything off the top of my head. I actually have notes right in front of me. So anyway, so to start off, what exactly is leadership? Honestly, before all of this, I thought leadership was all about being in charge, taking charge, telling others what to do and when to do it. Basically having everything go your way. And that's not necessarily wrong. It is still part of leadership, but it's not what it's all about. Basically, leadership is anytime you want to influence the thinking or the behavior or the development of another person. In other words, impacting another person to do a certain thing so that you could reach a common goal or vision. Honestly, I think some people confuse influence with convincing. I think some people, including myself, try to convince others to do what they want them to do. And honestly, I think it's just persuading someone to do things your way. Because if you try to convince someone, you're technically arguing with them on why they should do it your way and not include their idea. Unlike with influencing them, which is a big part of leadership, you actually have their trust. They trust you to take charge. You don't need to argue with them on why they should do what you say because you already have their trust. And that way you're impacting this other person's life because they trust you. So why? Why is leadership important? Why does someone need to step up and take charge? Why is it important for someone to lead someone? If you think about it, we live in a world filled with danger, whether it'll be economical or mental or physical danger. I mean, animals have leaders. The wolf pack has their alpha. Gorillas have their silverback male alphas. Meerkats have their matriarchs. So even animals have their leaders. And what do they all have in common? They help make their groups feel safe. And the same thing goes for us humans. We all feel danger in this world, whether it'll be danger from ourselves or from other people. Leaders help us feel safe and secure, whether it'll be physically or mentally, emotionally, even spiritually. Because admit it or not, humans are very complicated creatures. Most of the time we look down on ourselves and we feel insecure, and good leaders help us feel secure. And if a good leader influences a person the right way, they can make them feel very, very secure. And if a person feels secure with their leader, then the natural reaction would be to trust them and to cooperate with them. So as a leader, it is your responsibility to help your people feel safe with you, feel secure with you, and even in their own, because if they feel secure with you, then they trust you, then they will cooperate with you, then they will follow your lead. That is why leadership is important. You are helping them find a sense of direction, a sense of security in this world filled with danger. So I will be sharing with you a couple of key principles that I learned throughout this class and throughout my experience as a leader. So principle number 1, in order to be a good leader, you also have to be a good follower. Now, I know what you're thinking. Wait a minute. I'm the leader. Shouldn't they be following me? No. How will you be able to lead efficiently and effectively if you don't know how to follow someone else? If you don't know how to take simple instructions? I think some people surpass this principle because they think that being a follower is going down the ladder. Honestly, being a follower doesn't mean that you're staying there forever. It just means that you're a leader in training. You're training to be a leader in the future by experiencing what it's like to be a follower. And if you are a follower aspiring to be a good leader, you need to distinguish who and what you're following, because what you're following will reflect on your future followers and the way that you lead in the future. For example, one of my biggest inspirations when it comes to leadership is my dad. And most of the times, the decisions that I make or the way that I lead reflects the way he leads. Because I tend to copy what he's doing. Because as humans, you tend to copy someone you look up to. Having good role models can determine your success not only in leadership but in your future. Because like I said, you tend to copy someone who you look up to. So that could be your teacher or your parent or a friend of yours or an inspirational speaker who you've happened to be listening to or following for the past few years. So make sure that you understand what it's like to be a good follower, because it'll help you lead more effectively and efficiently in the future. And make sure that your role models are good examples for you to reflect on those who will be following you in the future. Now, principle number 2 is lead by example. Just like having good role models, you also have to be a good role model yourself. And how do you become a good role model? By actually doing things, the right things, and showing them what is the right thing to do. Because let's be honest, nobody likes someone who just gives orders saying, okay, you do this and you do that. Hey, bring me this or bring me that. That's not what a leader is. Technically, that's more of a bossy boss. Actually showing them what's the right thing to do really influences and impacts them to do and be better, because that's what leadership is all about. I believe that all leaders can be bosses, but not all bosses can be leaders. So yeah, when you lead by example, you also set up a standard. For example, if your boss goes to work in his casual clothes that he wears at home, what would other people think? They will think that, oh, it's alright to wear casual clothes to work, so let's wear casual clothes to work, which is inappropriate. But if your leader goes to work in the appropriate formal attire, or not formal, but what's appropriate with your work, then they're setting an example on what you're supposed to wear. And for student leaders, that would be setting an example of the right way to study, studying on a desk and not on your bed, or setting priorities when it comes to school. So lead by example in order to set up a standard for your followers. And lastly, principle number 3, being a good leader means looking after the welfare of others before your own. I love this story shared by Simon Sinek. If you haven't heard of him, he's one of the greatest motivational speakers that I've listened to, and he talks about leadership and what kind of characters a leader should have and so on. He shared a story about a friend of his who was a military commander or something. He said that his test for a good leader is when you ask someone how their day was and you actually care about the answer. Because that's what a leader is. They care about you. Leaders put others' benefits before their own. One of the greatest lies when it comes to leadership is to think that you can lord over everyone you're leading, everyone who's following you. I read this article in a Christian website the other day. It says there, one of the marks of Satan's influence is leaders lording over those who they are supposed to care about. Now, what does that mean? As a leader, you're supposed to care about your followers, your people. But if you end up just lording over them, thinking highly above yourselves, then you're not a leader. A leader does not overpower their followers. They actually guide them in order to become better than them. Because let's be honest, nobody cares how much you know unless they know how much you care. So if you're just lording over everyone who follow you, they won't actually care what you say or how much you know or how much you tell them to do. In the end of the day, they will get tired of it. But a good leader cares about their followers' success. In the words of Simon Sinek, a good leader cares about their followers' success and care to raise them, teach them skills, discipline them when necessary, and help them build their self-confidence so that they can go on and achieve something more than you could ever imagine for yourself. That is what a leader is, someone who cares about other people's future, their success, more than their own. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't think about your success or your future, but what I'm saying is, if you choose to be a leader, then that means you put others before you and not yourselves. Because leadership isn't a privilege, it's actually a sacrifice. Being a leader means willing to make sacrifices, sacrificing your time and resources and effort to make sure that others go to a direction you think that will help them with their success. In the same article I've mentioned before, linked to these articles down in the description below, it says there that the very essence and heart of leadership is taking initiative we otherwise wouldn't take and making sacrifices we otherwise wouldn't make to guide our people somewhere good they otherwise would not have gone. Now, one of the greatest examples of good leadership is, in my opinion, is Jesus Christ. And he demonstrated what it's like to be a good and efficient leader. In fact, let me just read from the Bible a verse in Matthew chapter 20, verses 25 to 28. And I'm reading from the NIV version. Jesus called them together and said, "You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be your slave. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many." So this is what we call the servant quality of leadership. So making sacrifices means serving others. It's part of the sacrifice. Because if you serve someone, it shows that you actually care about them. You care about them enough to help them do what needs to be done and to help them go to a direction that you think is best for them. Because that's what being a leader is. So what makes a good leader? What characteristics should a person have in order to lead more efficiently and effectively? Is it the charisma, the knowledge, or the experience? No. Being a leader means empathizing with those who follow you. You need to show empathy to other people, to acknowledge their needs and their success and their problems, to understand them and love them and guide them to the right path. Speaking of which, you also need the courage to tell them what is the right thing to do. According to Simon Sinek, in an interview that he was featured in, where he talked about the most important characteristic a leader should have, he says that it's courage. Courage to do the right thing. Because if you don't have that courage, the courage to tell others, hey, I don't think that's the right thing to do. Try it this way. Hey, I don't think this is how you're supposed to do it. Let's try it this way. If you don't have the courage to do that, then you're actually not guiding them. You're just doing what they say and you're not leading them. I've heard about this book. It's called Radical Candor. Radical Candor, written by Kim Scott. I personally do not have this book, but I've heard so many good reviews about it, and I have a slight idea of what it talked about. Basically, it has an illustration where there are two axes, where in one axis you have care personally, and the other axis you have challenge directly. And now in between those axes there are different types of leaders, depending on which side of the axis they are in. If you're over here and you care personally but do not challenge directly, then that's just ruinous empathy. You only just empathize with that person, but you're not challenging them, or you're not telling them that, I don't think that's the right way to do it, let's try it this way. You don't have the courage to tell them what's right and wrong. But if you're over here and you challenge directly but you don't care personally, then you're just aggressive, you're obnoxious, you're just telling them what to do without caring about what they have to say about your way. And if you're on this side where you don't care and you don't challenge them, then you're just manipulative. But on this side, you're actually being a good leader because you care enough about their ideas and their suggestions, but you challenge them enough to become better versions of themselves. That's what makes a good leader. You care about them enough to take in their ideas, take in their suggestions, but you try to challenge them to become better than you ever will be. Honestly, I have been in all those different sides of leadership, and thankfully this class has given me a clarity of what it's like to be a good student leader and to effectively lead those who are following me. I appreciate all of you listening to me. I hope that this video gives you a slight understanding of what being a good leader is. I really enjoyed being in this class, and I enjoyed sharing with you things that I've learned, and I hope it helps you. And for those who are aspiring to be good leaders, student leaders, go for it. Don't be afraid. Don't be scared if you're just starting out, if you think that you still don't have that kind of influence on others. The smallest things can have such a big impact on another person's life. Things like asking them how they are and actually caring about the answer, or things such as helping them with a project or helping them carry their books and on their way to school. Those little things may seem innocuous on their own, but once you do it consistently and combine it with a bunch of other small things, you're actually influencing that person and impacting that person and essentially leading them to be better. So go for it, take charge, influence them, do the smallest things consistently. Sooner or later you will find yourselves leading them towards a path where they would otherwise not go. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, leave a like, thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you're interested in seeing more from me. Let me know what kind of content you want me to post in this channel. And thank you for watching. See you next time.